Okay, we're here today with Dr. Osehobo, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions today to kind of give the children some insight on the processes it takes to be successful. So first, Doctor, and I'll call you Dr. O.
Yeah,
we'll ask you, kind of give us your background as far as your education and your upbringing.
Well, everybody calls me Dr. O. And I think it's easier that way. Originally from Nigeria. Grew up from a very poor home. Poor in the sense that we didn't have everything. I couldn't have 3 meals a day when I was growing up. I didn't have clothes except once a year when it was Christmas time. Had parents, were living together, but they didn't just go to school. They didn't have a good job. So early on, I was scared of living that way for the rest of my life. So I chose to change that, what you call family lifestyle. And one way I knew you couldn't debate about was get educated. And I knew if I got educated, then whatever I was going through growing up will not repeat itself. So back home in Nigeria, now education is free. So it's going to be bad. You are the only person that can say you don't want to go to school. At that time though, now you have to pay. So you go through the elementary school system, which is pretty much like here. And in my 3rd grade, I realized I was very good in writing. So I went for a competition statewide, and I came out in the 3rd place. And that kind of told me then that I wasn't a failure after all. If I could compete with other people and come out 3rd, then the sky was my limit. So from elementary school to, we don't really have middle school, you go straight into high school. All I was doing was to be the best. Everything I did was not mediocre because I knew I didn't want to go back home. I needed to keep going. So that writing got me to one of the best high schools in my city. And then when it was time to go to college, I had to make 2 big decisions. The first one was, I finished high school, should I go back home and help my parents and help my siblings because they were still in the same setup where I came from, or should I go ahead and go to college? So that decision was so nerve-wracking that while in the summer I was learning some trade, because I couldn't make up my mind whether I was going to go to college or not. One of the trade I learned was being a fashion designer, learning to sew. And so I was an apprentice to one of the well-known tailors in the town. And while waiting on what to do, I got an offer from the college that I was among the top 50 that they wanted to take. And then that changed the whole picture, and I just went to college, went to med school briefly, and then came over here.
So who was the biggest influence in your life on your education? I know you go through stages of education, and there's different people who motivate you to do different things, but who would you say had the biggest impact on who you are now and how you practice now?
The real biggest, although I will mention 3, but the biggest of them all was my mom. Mom insisted that nothing was going to stop me from getting to my potential. And I should, not just me, my other siblings, we should never give any reason for not being our best. We should never say, is it because we have no money or because we have no this? That should never be the reason. So what Mom did then was to start teaching us 2 things. One, she would go to the open marketplace where she would sell her wares, and then she would take us along. So while she's in her little store, we kids will now go out to sell, letting us know that she was doing her best to make sure we went to school. So that again was a drive because I never wanted to see my mom in that state anymore.
Yeah.
So I promised myself that would be the last time once I grow up I will see her doing that. And then you have 2 other people. One was a member of our church who saw how things were going for me and insisted that whatever I needed to finish school, he was going to be there for me. And then my uncle, who supported my mom to make sure we went to school. So those were the three main ones.
Got you. What's your biggest driver for success? And you kind of mentioned that in your earlier dialogue here, that the fear of going back.
Yes.
To
I
where
hate
you live.
to fail. I hate to fail. I'm scared to fail. That's my biggest drive. I can't afford to fail. Now you have to understand now that this was a guy that grew up wearing one shirt for a whole year, grew up eating 1 meal a day, grew up not sure if there would be food the next day. No, I don't want to go back there anymore. And I don't want anybody around me to even think about it that way. Yeah, that's the biggest fear.
So you growing up, do you notice or have you identified differences in the way that you grew up in Africa and the way that African Americans now grow up and the characteristics they exhibit as far as being entitled and not really having right?
Well, I have kids. I have 3 kids. My youngest is 15 years old. And anytime I'm trying to tell my kids what to do and how to do it, and I remind them of how I was brought up, the first thing they'll tell me is, okay, Daddy, this is America. And then we giggle about it, okay? But I have noticed that those African traits do not have geographical boundaries. They don't. I'll just give you a few. Number 1, kids will always monitor and follow what they see. You can give enough instructions, you can give enough teaching, but if they see you doing something different than what you're asking them to do, then they are going to think it's a hogwash. Say for example, you have your parents that are telling you, I want you to get up in the morning, get ready for school at 7 o'clock. You go catch the bus. And then you see them not getting up at 7 o'clock. They are still in bed at 8 o'clock yelling to you, are you ready for school? Are you ready for school? You're already giving a mixed message. The second thing is discipline works. You can never take out discipline in the upbringing of a child. And sometimes here we are afraid to discipline our children. Now, you don't have to discipline them by striking them. I mean, if you have to do that, then it's kind of dangerous here. You don't want to do that. But there's a way an adult figure impacts certain things and it impresses on the kid that this is what I want you to do. In this culture, what I think works the best is taking away privileges. Because kids want to watch the TV, they want to play their game, they want to go out with their friends, they want to have their fun. So those are the things that matter to them. So you take that out, you will get their attention. When I was growing up, it was corporal punishment.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, you mess up, you get 12 strokes. And you don't want to get 12 strokes, you behave. And then the third thing, and I think is missing really, is there's no support system here. Really, because everybody don't really care unless there's crisis time.
No preventative types.
No, they all jump in when there's crisis. But to make sure there was no crisis, they are not there. And you see it play out too. You see kids. As long as there's no problem, no, growing up, you can bring a girl to the house if that's not going to be your wife. What are you going to tell your parents you're bringing a girl to the house for? Here, you have teenagers coming to the house with their girlfriends and boyfriends.
No respect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got boys and girls here. They're 13 years of age. They're trying to make strides to be better students, better citizens, get their career path going. What is your advice to them? What are the things they need to focus on to be successful, regardless of where they're at?
Yeah. First and foremost, take out failure from your vocabulary. Drop it. That word failure, drop it somewhere. So find a way not to even bring it up. Doesn't matter where you are right now, you can say, okay, failure is not an option. That's the first thing. Then the second thing you do, once you've taken out that failure is not an option, it enables you to now focus on what will make you successful. And there are people and systems out there that will get you when you are successful. you have to be peculiar. And peculiarity doesn't mean you have to invent something. Peculiarity just means you're doing what you're expected to do extraordinarily well. And people will pick it up. I never spoke French. But when I got to age 12, when I got to high school, I realized that French was a course many students didn't like. So I decided to choose French. French was the first thing that took me outside of the country, because I won a competition in French and I went to a French-speaking country in Africa for a month's excursion. That exposed me to more possibilities. So you got to find something you're good at and do it very well. And when it was not time to go to medical school, the friends I said came to my aid have seen a track record that I am not laying back, that I'm not giving up irrespective of my background. And I wasn't throwing in the towel. And they said, okay, we will do what we need to do. And friends, even in college, I will eat 1 meal a day in order to make sure I could finish a semester. You have to make some sacrifices. But I can tell you this, you are not going to fail and you will be what you're expected to be.
Well, Dr. O, I cannot thank you enough, and the students that step up definitely thank you. And we will see you and hope to talk to you live on webcast this year.
Thank you.
All right.